Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, Gigantic shutting down, and I told you so. I told everyone it was going to shut down, even though I love the game, and I don't know what to say. I was going to do a video like this on Paragon, probably still will, but I wanted to do one first on Gigantic, because this is kind of breaking news, and also this is a game that is really close to my heart. If you guys don't know, I actually applied to Motiga to be a video capture artist, didn't get the job. I actually interviewed, but during the interview process, they ended up firing the majority of the people working on the game because they lost their funding from Microsoft. Microsoft probably dropped the project because it wasn't going anywhere. And in the end, yeah, it didn't go anywhere. So perfect world. Don't know what happened here. I can say, though, that since the game launched, they actually did get new characters. They started getting new skins, new maps, but it still wasn't to the pace to make up for all the years of just fucking nothing. Gigantic just didn't update anything, really. And I mean that sincerely, too. Like, the game still had tons of bugs, glitches, didn't run great. And if you consider it as a competitive game on PC, it was locked to 60 FPS and it had a lot of weird under-the-hood coding stuff. I'm not even going to go into great detail about that, but basically it just wasn't an accurate game. It just was not ready to be competitive. And you can, say that about PUBG and stuff like that, and oh my god, absolutely, yes, we can definitely talk about that. But Gigantic was also in a similar boat. Whether it seemed like that or not to you as casual players, but for somebody who plays really competitive games like Overwatch right now, dude, Gigantic was just nowhere close. Seemingly, on the surface, it seemed like a very competitive game. It was very fast, had lots of skill shots. It was a third-person shooter, but it was very aim-based. Even in the melee characters, pretty aim-based and positional-based. It was fun. It was very fun. With a lot, I like Trip so much. Margrave even was pretty intense. He was like a more fun Winston. Absolutely. So there were some cool characters, but in the end, everything just kind of fell flat because from under the hood stuff to the overarching systems in the game. Like, I think the concept was really sound, and that's why I fell in love with it and applied to be a person on Motiga. But in the end, everything in between just sucked. It just wasn't good. And I know a lot of people liked it. Some people might even say loved it. But you need to think about why you did love it. Did you love it because you met friends there? Did you love it for one reason or another that maybe isn't quite exactly because of the gameplay? I don't know. Some people attach themselves to games arbitrarily. So I just want you guys, before you comment on it, to really think about it. Like, did you just happen to latch onto this game? You could have played Paladins instead and latched onto that for arbitrary reasons too. Just really think about it. So there's a lot of people that fall in love with the games and will defend it, and slur at people on the internet that put it down. That's been my case. I put down Gigantic despite I literally applied for Motiga. I wanted to work on the game. I wanted to make videos on the game and promote it. I really did. I put it in so many top 10s. And I don't know how many times I have to say this in these videos. It's like nobody actually watches these videos. But anyways, I loved Gigantic. Very close to my heart. I went on stream on record multiple times saying if Gigantic was the only game that I could play for the rest of my life, I would probably be satisfied, assuming it would be updated and online and stuff. But the thing is it wasn't ever really updated. We barely got new characters, we barely got new skins until like recently. We didn't really get new game modes or maps, and it just got really stale. So a lot of the staleness also came from the lack of roles. I mentioned this a couple times. This is a big fighting point, objection point for my videos. Somebody's like, nah, dude, roles, I like it because it doesn't have roles. Well, I mean, you can look historically at other games that have role-like characters, but then don't include gameplay that facilitates those roles, and they failed. Guild Wars 2 is an amazing game, but as a whole, PvE game and different ways to play PvP, but its esport failed. Its esport failed because it doesn't have roles and everything hit like a wet noodle. It wasn't fun to watch. Gigantic was exactly the same. Then add on layers and layers of bugs and lack of polish. Yeah. Well, I can say in polish, the animations were amazing. The animations and the characters were pretty cool. In fact, if you look at these kits, actually, I like a lot of these kits. If we compare them to copycat games, like Sven came first, and then Paladins had Pip. Well, I think Sven was cooler. And then HK, whatever, I can't even remember his name. He's the robot in this game. I think is a way more fun Bastion. Overwatch has really cool characters, but I think it's more fun Bastion. Again, I love Trip, I love Margrave, and a few other characters. Vodin, the Swiggity Swooty freaking Fox dude. He's an archer. Thought he was really interesting with clones and stuff, but a lot of these characters fell a little bit flat because the system in place instead of having itemization, and instead of having really I would say just flat engaging kits like in Overwatch, they kind of split the kits. So like Margrave can be a tank, but he can also be kind of an assassin. So it's basically like, okay, he can be a Winston or he can be a diva. But the thing is like it would be more fun if he had a more cohesive identity, and then you could like express yourself as a player through that identity. So like as Winston, you can play a little bit more defensively, or you can play hyper aggressive and hyper dive. And diva can be actually the same too, but you know, they have their different expressions. But you know, in this game they use a leveling thing, and that's cool, you know, to use leveling. But the way they separated the kits like that, a lot of the mechanics were left out. I think it's kind of a cool idea, but the amount of levels, the amount of expression that's geared toward the itemization or the leveling, I think it would have been better if it was just built into the kit flat. So I think if Sven was a proper healer, like completely focused on healing, and then through leveling, you could enhance that healing or enhance maybe survivability or damage or, you know, CCing, that would be cool. But the fact is that right now Sven was like, you can spec to kind of be more healy, you can spec to do more damage, but you can't, you're not really a role until you spec into it. And I don't really like that. I think that the characters should have had their role identity in their kit, and then you enhance that or kind of round it out through leveling. So that's kind of what I want to say. I know I said a lot of words, but that's basically what I want to say, if we could just end cap it there. So I think that was my main problem, is it was role-like characters, but didn't have roles proper. Then we have the game mode as a whole and the maps. So I think immediately it was really cool that instead of having towers normally in a MOBA, they had creatures you summon. That's really, I love the Bloomer, had so much character, so awesome. But everyone just placed the same monsters in the same places. You know, everyone put the Bloomer in the same place, everyone put the Cyclops in the same place, like everyone basically did the same monsters at the same time. It wasn't really that engaging. It wasn't really that cool. I think it could have been done a little bit better. That was kind of a half-assed design. I kind of like the idea of capture points, pseudo capture points. I don't know. It was almost really cool. And then you also had this the maps design as a whole. I think I liked one map. I liked the Ruins map a lot because it had a lot of sightline breakers and there were some interesting areas to play around. It was a really big map too. But I don't know, the rest of the maps kind of fell flat for me, especially the desert map. Desert map was pretty boring. And I think the game mode as a whole, it went through some changes, but it was really confusing. It wasn't very transparent. And I know a lot of people just say, well, you got to get used to it. But no, like I played for hours and hours and hours. You can look back at all of my YouTube videos, dozens of hours. Nope, still pretty confusing. It's not really transparent. It's not in your face. And it just doesn't feel that good. It just didn't feel that good. I like the idea that it actually did focus on team deathmatch in order to break through different phases. But if it just felt kind of bad that sometimes you would be punished for being, I guess, kind of playing the game. You would be punished sometimes for damaging the enemy, you know, giant or whatever, and then the phase would arbitrarily end, and then if you die, you actually give your enemies teams a point. I don't know, it just didn't make sense. There's a lot of shit that didn't make sense. I'm not here to explain the whole game and all of its mechanics out to you. Hopefully you guys played it, but basically, like, it just didn't feel good. And there's some mechanics in Overwatch 2 that are like that. Like, you can actually be punished for doing damage because you're gonna feed Mercy the ultimate. That doesn't feel good. I actually think that should be changed, in fact. But, you know, Gigantic was basically just filled with shit like that. Like, it was just filled with you getting punished for being proactive at all. So you're really, really heavily promoted to play very defensively and play very mobbish, even though it was supposed to kind of be like this MMO battleground. And generally in battlegrounds, you're supposed to kind of be all over the place. You're supposed to have flankers going here, doing that, multiple objectives. But in Gigantic, it was really like the map would be spread out. Even if it was a linear map, there were still things you could, you know, on paper do, but you were not really rewarded for that. It would be too difficult. So everyone just mobbed together and it just became kind of a mosh pity sort of experience. It didn't feel great. And then on top of that, everything hit like a wet noodle. Everyone could easily escape most things. You have dodges, you had the stamina bar. It was a very fast game, very vertical game too, so it's hard to aim and easy to dodge. It just didn't really feel satisfactory. And it really came close. It really could have, but it just didn't. And the problem is it was so close to just getting over that line for years. And I played it for those years and it never crossed that line. And I think right as it's shutting down, It's actually the closest it's ever been to crossing that line. It's almost there, but it really needs just so much. Pacing fixes, definitely. You level way too fast. The levels are actually too complex, and I'm somebody who really likes complex leveling. I like the Dota leveling system. I like the Heroes of the Storm system, but Gigantic's is too all over the place. I already mentioned the roles. I think it needs to be streamlined a little bit more, and, you know, streamlined in terms of tactics or strategy, in terms of the leveling, in terms of the phases and all that stuff. It needs to be simplified, streamlined, and then from there add in the mechanical play. You know, let us express ourselves as players, because seemingly there's a lot you could do on paper, but what actually is effective, what you actually do when you actually play this game in solo queue, and what happens, what folds out because of the phase system and everything. I don't know, man. It just isn't rewarding. It doesn't feel that great. And again, so close to being one of the most expressive games out there, and I really truly thought it would have been, but it just didn't cross that line. So, Gigantic, probably the biggest, most gigantic failure of this year, or you could say past fucking decade, because it's taken a long time for this game to develop. So it was pretty much a failure, dead on arrival. I called it. Sadly, again, tragically, I was rooting for this game. It launched to like 10,000 players, and from there, it was honestly just kind of, I think just kind of maintenanced. They probably had this stuff already developed, and they just kind of drip fed it into the game, and it just wasn't enough. You know, these new characters and stuff, it just wasn't enough. They needed so much more. It really sucks because these animation work, some of these characters, it was really close. The concept, it was close, but I don't know what they did these past few years. They decided they were close enough. They were packing it up, phoning it in. We'll just get as much money as we can and pass out. So that's it. That's what I think about it. Gigantic, dead on arrival, biggest failure, shutting down in July. What do you guys think about Gigantic? What are your thoughts and feelings? Let me know. Much love, guys. See you in the next one.